So let's start with the panel discussion straight away in order to save time. So I would like to invite David, Frédéric, and Nathalie from Swarovski. So you have 3 microphones.
And we lost somebody. Ah, no, Frédéric is there. Can I use my mic for that, yeah? Okay. So, thank you very much for coming. Instead of me introducing you, I really would like that you introduce yourselves. And also, within your introduction, if you could talk about briefly the role of art in what you do in your jobs and in your businesses. Frédéric.
I put ladies first now.
So, good afternoon. I'm Nathalie Collin. I'm the creative director of Swarovski. I'm based in Paris with a set of designers. We are in charge of the collection. And I've been previously an entrepreneur for 10 years. I had my company working mostly between Europe and Asia. And before that, I was in the trend business, and I started my career with Marc Jacobs. So quickly, an overall background. Art has always been at the core of what I wanted to do. I wanted only to study art, but I was told, no, there's no future, there's no position in this business. So I had to study mathematics and physics first. And the proof today is that, yes, there's position in art industry. Art today is part of the design process, and it's also very much rooted in what Swarovski is and as a brand identity, in our brand equity.
Well, thank you, Nathalie. And actually, I get one more reason to understand why I really liked you from the first sight, because I also studied mathematics and physics. And anyway, so okay, let's continue then in this direction.
Hi, my name is David. I'm a director, mostly music videos, commercials, and I'm developing a feature film now, a project called Cobalt, about luxury, high fashion, in the relationship with violence and youngsters, young generation. Sorry, Vadim, I cannot really answer because art, I don't know the definition of art, actually. I'm still looking for it.
Well, you define yourself as digital artist, right?
Yeah, no, this is like a technician name. I would consider myself more like a craftsman, artisan. I think I can understand what craft is, but art, I'm still looking for the definition. So maybe at the end of the panel, I can have an answer for that.
And with some ruinar, we can continue.
Good, yeah, oh, amazing.
Hello, hi, I'm Matteo. I work for Condé Nast International. You've seen me before, probably. And I didn't listen to my father, so I studied modern literature, and I thought that this was one of the best choices of my life. And first of all, because being Italian, you grew up being exposed to an incredible amount of piece of art. The headquarters of Condé Nast Italy are in Piazza Cadorna, 200 meters from the Last Supper and in front of Castello Sforzesco. So you grew up with art as an individual, and then art is something that will live with you forever when you work in a media or publishing company. Because at any level, you are exposed to very talented people, but in order to be creative and talented, at some point they are exposed, they are including art in their process.
You see, so, David doesn't know the definition of art, but you as Italian, as every Italian, you have art in your vein.
Exactly, that's the point.
Hello, I'm Frédéric Fonton. So I was a former dancer and singer for 10 years. And actually, as you both, to please my parents, I study chemistry and bioengineering, so I get a master in science also. So I spent 10 years on stage internationally, and I turned into artistic director and creative director for some event film for a luxury brand. So I did that for Chanel, Hermes, Van Cleef & Arpels for 10 years, and I was partner of Reflex Group in Paris, New York, and Shanghai. And 6 years ago, I thought that I was losing a part of my soul and of my skills. So I create Alpha Libra, which is a company where we are working 50% of our time in art and cultural projects. We are working with Paris Opera Ballet, with some contemporary artists and pop artists. So we don't put any limits with the kind of art and the kind of artists we are working with. And on the other side, 50% of our time we are working with a luxury brand, premium project. And of course, we are doing the link between the brand and the art.
And I see that you have a very beautiful Man Ray image embedded on your T-shirt.
Yeah.
Which is,
I love surrealism, and this is a creation from Schiaparelli, and we will talk about that, like the legacy of some brands to really get into art.
Excellent. But I would like to start with Matteo. And Matteo, could you tell us, because Condé Nast has many brands, out of all of them, GQ, Vogue, all of that, Wired, which one you think would correspond to the definition of cultural agent that I just did in my previous presentation?
Not an easy question, because if you think at the role of a media or of a publication or a title in this case, it's per se, at a certain extent, a cultural agent. Because many people say Vogue defines fashion, Vogue is fashion, etc., etc. But the reality, what each title do is to intercept trends and study these trends in each individual field. It could be AD with design, could be Wired with technology, or Vogue with fashion. And by the time the editors intercept and define and understand these trends, and they make this trend explicit and amplify and explain and expose all the readers to the others, they influence this. So we as a media player, we are drawing a map of these trends, and we are offering this map to our readers.
Sure.
So we are not the territory, but we are the map in this case.
But if we look at a more precise vision, that cultural agent that brings something beyond the transactional value through art and culture. So more specifically,
I have quite a good experience with a brand like Wired that was born in the mid-90s in the Silicon Valley. This was a brand that coincided with the born of a new culture, the digital culture, before even the geek term was defined. So Wired coincides with a new culture and helped to define what is the role of this culture in the society. So if I have to look at a recent case, I would say that Wired well explain what is the role and what is the relationship and the impact on society. And the fact that Wired is still based in California, can't be moved from there. The editorial team must be there.
Are they bringing contemporary art to much and mix it with technology?
Wired is about innovation, how technology is impacting our society, we said before. And art is one of the form. Wired, I don't want to say invented, but used a lot new languages like infographics. It's a way of explaining complex system, a complex concept, visualizing in a simple and understandable way. So when you, I don't want to say invent a language, but you make a language, a new form of language available in order to explain complex
and this
system,
is true because
you are probably doing what you're saying. So, and this is one of the examples. And then all the other titles are trying to do the same in different fields. Because of course we live not only because there is a transaction between us and our readers, but we bring something. And this is true for what we do.
And you have art issues in Vogue and this?
Obviously, and we partner with many exhibitions. Vogue Spain did an exhibition about photography and classical painting in 2015. So there are a number of examples because we live in this world. But at some point, we have a tangible impact. So at the end, Wired Italy create an exhibition, an open-air exhibition in Milano about infographic. Is infographic a form of art? I don't know, but it's a form of communication. Yeah, it's a form of communication that has an impact on the younger generation.
Sure.
So that's my view on this.
Okay. So let's move to Natalie. Natalie, I really admire what Swarovski is doing in the realm of art. Those of you who live in London, for example, they know this annual ball at Whitechapel, which is very famous and respected. Different kinds of prizes, a lot of collaborations with artists, etc., etc. But what I'm more interested is in how you bring art into the creative process, how you really motivate your teams through art, how you get the inspiration and maybe how do you change your processes of working through art?
I think art and the artistic approach is very important in design. And to me, it has to be fully embedded. Because if you cannot imagine, and it all starts with a story, with a vision, with a beautiful, let's say, passionate discussion with the team in the studio, if it doesn't start with a beautiful story that can engage us all, there's no way that it can reach the heart of the consumer. So when we start the design process, we start purely by discussing. It's very different, so we don't start with a sketch. We start first by discussing what is the story we're going to tell this season, what is our belief, what is our conviction, on what part of the DNA are we going to leverage the next collection. And on the one side, we have a big business pressure because Swarovski, the part that I'm responsible for, has to deliver more than 2 billion per year. So it's a serious business in terms of collection design. But on the other side, I have to create a very light environment in the studio, very happy, very joyful, very constructive, very artistic.
Like we heard in the morning that you need to bring happiness to foster creativity.
So what do we do? So we have lectures of external speakers. We are going together with the team to visit exhibition. Instead of doing just a Christmas party, we're going to see some artistic event all together. So we have to create moments where creativity can flow. And definitely one killer of creativity is routine. I hate the routine, the repetitive things. So you have to take designers out of their comfort zone, all of us. And creativity is not only for the design team, it's for everyone, starting with a receptionist. So I think take everyone out of their comfort zone and break the routine.
But would you put in place, you remember this quotation from Olafur Eliasson, he said, we do mistakes and we celebrate them. Would you put it inside your team instead of saying...
We just discussed and we say, okay, we start next week, a mistake meeting. We don't have that so far.
At least there's one good benefit from my talk.
Totally, because I think it's exactly what we need. We need to reflect, but also be super open to new ideas, be disruptive. And it's one of the discussions we had yesterday. We were discussing about Objective 2019. And I said, we're discussing very serious things, also processes. And at one point I said, okay, we just have to be more disruptive, more rebel. I ask all of my direct reports, okay, be more rebel. Rebel yourself. And I think it's very important. It's like an artistic approach. You cannot just fit in a box.
It's artistic attitude. And because you worked in Swarovski since 2006, it seems that your top management tolerates this rebellion from time to time.
I mean, you have to stand with some very firm beliefs, but you have to be open also to disruption. So it's a balance to achieve. On one side, you have to have a point of view. On the other side, you have to be open. And
that's what artists do the best, right?
Yes,
they have the
yes,
point of view.
Yes. You must. As a brand, especially also towards consumers, you cannot be in the average. I hate the concept of average. I think average is just an aggregation of people who don't have any point of view or strong beliefs. And I think it's important to have a point of view, to have a personality. A brand is like a person who wants to have a boring conversation at dinner with someone who has no conversation.
Sure.
I don't.
Okay, so let's move to David. David, okay, so you're a movie director and you work at this intersection between the brands because you do advertisement sometimes, right? But also something that is a little bit much more artistic. So could you, because I think you could have a very good perspective on what is the red line between a good collaboration and bad collaboration with artists? What a brand should not do when collaborating with an artist?
I mean, with a living artist or dead artist? I mean,
let's say living one.
Okay, because I was thinking about the Jeff Koons collaboration with Louis Vuitton. Okay, I mean, I think the fine line is between an artist and an artist should never be a businessman. I think this should be handled by other people, and the fine line between creation and the fine line between creation and making profit of it. So I think if a brand wants to work with an artist, I think it should respect his vision. It should respect his imagination, what he creates, and let him free. Because as soon as when an artist is hired by a big brand to do something creative, and if the company, the big brand is giving too much notes or too much details, then the artist.
So you would go like open brief.
Yeah, I mean, an artist is not an artist anymore when he works for a brand. I think he's more, like I said, a craftsman or a technician or.
Yeah, but yet there are some great artists that work with brands today.
Yeah, but
many of them.
Of course, but it's different when they do their personal project. I mean, let's say if Da Vinci, or when he was working for François Ier, you said, or when he was doing his own stuff, I think maybe he was much more interesting what he was doing on the side when he was doing commitment job. I mean, any artist, I think.
Most of them, to be honest, at that time, they were doing only commissions. It only came at the 17th century when artists in Holland actually it started, when artists started to do something for the market and for themselves. But before it was only commission, either a prince or a king or a pope or whoever.
But let's say if Jean-Michel Basquiat was living today, I think. Reebok, because Reebok is doing a lot of shoes with Basquiat drawings on it. But if Basquiat was living and working for Reebok, I think
he would get the heart attack.
No, maybe he would do it. I don't know, maybe not. But if he would do it, I think the company like Reebok would let him free to do what he wants. That's what I think any brand should do, unless the artist is willing to commit and do whatever the brand wants.
And Nathalie, would you agree with that? Because you commission some of the artists, right, to work with you.
I 100% agree. It's also the vision, very strongly the vision of Nadia Swarovski. She has many platforms where she's invited these artists. And one of the things is give them a white page. Because why do we invite artists? It's also for them to express themselves with our medium, crystal, but by sharing their own vision, how they see crystals for their own artistic interpretation. It's a different case when we have to design a collection. When we have to design a collection, when there's, for example, collaboration with designers like Margiela or Gautier to design a collection, then there's a business angle to it, then in that case is less free, of course.
Where have they recruited you in 2006? It's unbelievable.
You know that I said no? When they approached me, I said, no, and because I had my company at that time, and when they confirmed the job, I said, oh, no, but can I start freelance for 3 months? and they said yes, and after 3 months, I finally said yes.
Well, lucky they are. So let's move to Frederick. Frederick, so you started your company, and you defined it as bridging between communication and art, right? And unlike our background, you much more with dance. I know biochemistry and all that, but still, I'm envious. I wish I studied dance. Can you give us some examples, either from your experience or just from what you know, some of the brilliant examples of brands bringing art for the sake of communication, and why do you think they are brilliant? Why they are successful?
I have a few examples, but I think right now the communication, we are all media and actor, and the brand also. Everything is mixing, everything is about communication. And now the art and the artists are also some medium of communication. So if I pick up the video of Beyonce and GZ, you have the Louvre Museum, which is the place, but also a brand, which is like trying to drive new generation to the museum. And at the same time, you have Burberry showing their mixing their own product with some dancer and with some major art pieces. So I think right now it's all about like mixing all those process and all those art form, performance, and art. And so I think there is no boundary. So to finish with that, there is so much more example. But I think there is...
For example, Beyonce, because I'm sure that many of you have seen this beautiful video. Why do you think it is a particularly good example? I agree with you, but why do you think particularly it's, in your opinion?
Because it's really pop culture, this video. It's like mixing every medium. It brings art and culture to everyone, like it's a video, so everyone can see that. There is no, if you have a smartphone or a TV or a computer, you can see it.
I agree with you. For me, the thing that makes this Beyonce video so much potent is the fact that they brought meaning into every single detail of that, and in a very artistic way.
Oh, really?
If you deconstruct it, it is an artistic, it's not a copy, it's not just using Louvre as, but really in a dialogue, really in...
But even in the outfit, they really work on every piece.
Exactly, beautifully.
They put the level of the outfit, the song, and the art pieces at the same level. So for me, this is like a kind of nowadays, but maybe future. And to take a quote of Andy Warhol, the museum will be a supermarket and supermarket will be museum. And this is right now. So when you see all those brands in the Louvre Museum, is the Louvre Museum a supermarket or vice versa?
Or vice versa. In any case, I think we're behind our time, so I would like to ask the audience to congratulate our panel speakers.